Good afternoon, this is HorseRacingNation.com handicapper Jarrod Horak. Today we're going to be talking 2015 Kentucky Derby Contenders. We're getting close, we're a little more than 2 weeks away from the running of the Kentucky Derby. So most of the field has been set, but we're gonna talk about some of the top contenders, and we're going to go back to when I first started my Kentucky Derby blog last September. Now each September after Del Mar and Saratoga, I always get an early start on my Kentucky Derby Contenders blog. And this year, a lot of the horses after Del Mar and Saratoga, again, they ran at Del Mar and Saratoga. Some of my top contenders, they've been on my list since September, and they're still in the hunt for the roses. So now let's talk about those horses. 5 of my top 6 Kentucky Derby contenders right now, they were part of my original September list. And we'll start with Kabeir. Right now, he's number 6 on my list. He's had 9 career starts with 4 wins, 2 seconds, and 2 thirds. His sire is Scat Daddy. And he's also won at Churchill Downs. He won the Kentucky Jockey Club Stakes at Churchill. Now we mentioned the Saratoga-Del Mar connection. This one has the Saratoga connection. Last August 30th, he broke his maiden at Saratoga impressively. After that impressive win, I put him on my list. He's done well since then. He's hit the board in some stakes. He's won some. As I mentioned, he's won at Churchill. He won the Kentucky Jockey Club Stakes there. Still not sure which rider they're going to use. Chucky Lopez has been riding, but they're thinking about maybe switching to Calvin Burrell. They weren't that happy with his ride in the Wood Memorial, but he didn't really have to do much in the Wood Memorial. He was already qualified on points. He sat back, he made a run, he finished 3rd. That was good enough. He has plenty of experience. They didn't want to empty the tank. He's one of the most experienced horses in the race. Now, he still has to improve speed figure-wise. One of the big things he's been able to do is change his running style. He started out as a speed horse when he started his career, and he started to become a little more tractable, and now he's been able to come from well off the pace. So he's got a versatile running style. He just needs to get quicker. I'm not sure if he wants to go this far or if he's this good, but so far he hasn't done much wrong. He's been in the top 3 in 8 of his 9 starts, and he looks like a solid threat to maybe at least hit the board in the Derby. My next horse sitting at number 5 on my list is Frosted, and he's one of my favorite ones. He was still a maiden when I had him on my list. You go back to last August 23rd, he was 2nd in a maiden race at Saratoga. So when I had him on my list last September, he was still a maiden. He graduated nicely, and then he was able to finish 2nd in the Remsen. He was 2nd in the Holy Bull, and then the Fountain of Youth came along, and it looked like he was going to be a runaway winner. Top of the stretch, he was in control. He just came to a sudden stop. It was a baffling race. Kerry McLaughlin made a lot of changes. They gave him a little bit of a throat surgery, thinking maybe he had a little bit of an issue there. They worked him behind horses, and then he looked like a new horse in the Wood Memorial. He rallied from off the pace. He showed a new dimension, a nice closing dimension there. So he's got that running style versatility, and a new rider last time as well, Joel Rosario. He's a Tappet, and some will say the Tappets can't get 10 furlongs, but then last year's Belmont Stakes winner, Tonalist, was Tappet, and he was able to get 12 furlongs. I'm not that concerned about that. He seems like a horse that can get the distance. 7 career starts, he has 2 wins in 4 seconds. His only bad race was the Fountain of Youth. He's still going to have to prove that last one was for real and then run back to back, but he could be a horse that's improving at the right time. I played him in pool 1 of the future wagers for the Kentucky Derby, and hopefully he makes the race and gives me a run for my money. Sitting at number 4 on my list right now is American Pharoah. 5 lifetime starts, 4 wins, and he began his career at Del Mar. So he's the Del Mar horse on this list. And that day in his career debut at Del Mar, he finished 5th. That wasn't his best effort, but then they ran him in the Grade 1 Del Mar Futurity, and he won that one. Hasn't lost since then. He's been able to control the pace in most of his races. He was outstanding in the Arkansas Derby. He was able to track a fast pace, and he just pulled away from inferior competition. Now he's going to be facing better pace rivals. That's probably the only thing really has to answer now. And then the other thing is that he had a later start. His last 2-year-old start was in September, and he didn't begin his 3-year-old season until March. So he had a later start than a lot of the horses, but this one has a lot of ability. Pioneer of the Nile is his sire. He was my Derby horse in his year when Mine That Bird ended up beating him, and he finished 2nd. So I'm a fan of his sire. He's obviously very talented for trainer Bob Baffert, and Victor Espinosa is going to ride, and he won the Kentucky Derby last year on California Chrome. So this horse has a lot of ability. We know that. It's just a question of the pace rivals that he's going to be facing, including his own stablemate Dortmund. He's never faced pace rivals of that ability, but he has a ton of ability, that's for sure. Sitting at number 3 on my list is International Star. He was my original number 1 last September. and he's just gotten better. Each race, his speed figure has gone up. 9 career starts. He has 5 wins and 2 seconds. Fusaichi Pegasus is his sire. He was a Kentucky Derby winner. This one began his career earlier than any of the other horses. He actually, June of last year at Belmont Park, he won his career debut. Then he was second in a stakes race at Belmont, and then he ended up finishing at Saratoga second in the Grade 2 with Anticipation. After that race, I put him on my Derby list. Now, Miguel Mena has given him great rides in his last 3 starts at Fairgrounds, and he's overcome everything. He still has to improve speed figure wise to beat some of the top horses, but he's very professional. This is the kind of horses he's going to sit back, continue to improve, and run his race. If the pace gets quick, look for him late. He can go between horses, he can come up the rail, he can do whatever he needs to do. Very professional horse, and he is a threat to win the Derby. And then number 2 on my list is Dortmund, but he wasn't part of my original list. We'll talk about him on another video. But my number 1 horse is Carpe Diem, and I've only had 2 number 1s since I started my list last September: International Star and then Carpe Diem, and they've been the only 2 number 1s. This one began his career last September 1st at Saratoga, and he won that career debut. And his sire is Giants Causeway. John Velasquez is the rider for trainer Todd Pletcher. And he came right out of that debut and ran right in a 2-turn graded stakes race at Keeneland, and he won that one. He won that Breeders' Futurity. Then he was second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. In that Juvenile, the pace was quick. He's usually up on the pace. He had to do something different. He was shipping across country. He was coming from off the pace, but he never quit, and he finished second. Then this year, they've run him 2 times. The Tampa Bay Derby, he dominated that one, tracking the pace. And then last time in the Bluegrass Stakes at Keeneland, an easy winner there as well. Now, his speed figures are a bit lighter than horses like American Pharoah, but he does have a lot of ability, and I think that he's probably sitting on a peak effort in the Derby. They didn't want to empty the tank to this horse. I think he's got a lot of tactical ability. The only problem is that his running style could hurt him, because there's a lot of horses that have that same tactical running style in the Derby this year. But if he continues to improve, he has a lot of ability for trainer Todd Pletcher, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ran a good race in the Kentucky Derby. Now next week we'll come back and we'll talk about some of the other Derby contenders, but we got a good start here. We've talked about 5 of the Derby contenders. Next week we'll have another video. We'll talk about another 5 Derby contenders, including Dortmund and Firing Line. Until next week, good luck in the race.